Important thing that we need to educate and raise the awareness is also the fact that we need to breathe. We inhale and exhale, and that's life. For that to happen on a continuous basis, we are drawing this air from somewhere around us. I mean, we call that the breathing zone. That's where we're going to breathe the air in and we exhale into that same space. So the question about how good that breathing zone air is depends on where that zone gets its air from. It can come from outside, it can come from a mechanical system that's going to provide a clean air to that breathing zone. At the end of the day, where we are in terms of the breathing zone is probably the most critical factor. So if you extend the logic of when you wear a PPE, then you are kind of just containing the so-called inhalation zone very close to the face. But typically when we're talking about a breathing zone, it's I always visualize it as something like a cylinder in front of me, around me, let's say. If I turn around, I'm drawing from this part of my body. Turn this way, I'm inhaling from this part of my body. The idea is that there is an immediate volume of space from where we inhale from. I'm not going to suck the air from the door there. I'm not that powerful. No one is. So we draw the air from the immediate breathing zone, which is why most ventilation standards do talk about the air provided at the breathing zone. Now, to a person at home, to the ordinary citizens, all these breathing zone stuff may not really make much sense. But if we talk to them along the lines of what you inhale from wherever it is important because it's going into your system, into your body, into your lungs. And that's critical. If that air that we inhale in is going to make us feel better, keep us healthy, if that message can go out and get everyone to sort of take ownership of, I breathe good, clean air, I will stay healthy. Yeah. And that's an important message to be sent out. And then the question of how do we educate them to ensure that they don't get exposed to bad air or poor air quality. If we connect the dots, not all the time they might be able to do something about making that air clean or good air for them to inhale from. But most of the time when you spoke about earlier the fact that when we are home, it's not public space, it's our own space. But in our own space, what can we do about it? I think that's important to understand there. And the same question will go to the office environment or malls or transportation environments. It's that immediate breathing zone that is so critical, where the quality of air that we supply or we provide for is important for the person to breathe from, and ensure that that process is always kept in a way that it is healthy for them. And it can be infection risk, it can be exposure to outdoor pollution, it can be exposure to other contaminants. The whole thing is so complicated. You close everything because the outdoor is polluted. We don't dilute the contaminants in. And then you got all the carpets, you got all the building materials emitting, outgassing. You are now inhaling another species of contaminants, and chemicals.
I think that's the challenge, though, with the human species, is we're not very good at compressing complexity into behaviour. I think that's it's a real challenge in behavioural science, is getting people to understand particularly complex chronic risk, the kind of risks where I'm exposed to low levels of a whole range of things that in culmination might cause me a condition later on in my life. It's very hard for us to make value judgments in a moment on something that's so instinctive. I think that's one of the challenges we have with ventilation, is we're literally hardwired not to think about it. It's such a basic instinct, more than almost any other human thing, breathing. Something we can't think about. So in that context, how do we change behaviours that impact the big risk, which is the chronic risk? There's very few acute risks in air quality that are deadly, but there are many that are deadly long term. And that's something I've been personally battling recently, is how do we communicate that? And one of the thought experiments I've been playing with people that manage buildings in this space is to say, we have to recognize that our lungs are incredibly efficient delivery systems for pollutants into our body. And as such, that's why it's multisystemic, that they are a mechanism in which we can put pollutants into the bloodstream that are able to cross every cell wall in the body. That's why air pollution is associated multisystemically, right? So how do you translate into something that people can understand and relate to? And one of the things I was saying to people was, imagine every building in the world had an incredibly efficient ventilation system on the roof, and that ventilation system had a filter, and it was brilliant at filtering all of the chemicals and gases and particulates out of the air. It was absolutely fantastic. The only thing was that instead of capturing it in the filter for you to throw away, that filter put those pollutants into the water system of the home. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, those filters were capturing all the pollutants in the air outside and filtering them into your water, into the water you drank, into the water that you cooked with, into the water you bathed your children with. And there's nothing you could do about it. That's just the way buildings work.
Right.
You'd be freaked out, right? That every time you took a drink of water, you were drinking pollutants that were being captured from the air around you. Well, we have a system like that, and it's called our lungs. That's what our lungs are doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's only one thing we can do to reduce that risk, and that is remove the pollutants from the air. That's kind of what we're facing. And you can see people's kind of jaws drop when you explain it in a way where you go, well, we don't have a lot of agency other than to try and reduce the pollutants in the space, because this thing is happening all the time, and we're absorbing all of those pollutants every time we take a breath without thinking about it.
Right.
Those pollutants are being absorbed into our bloodstream, and accumulatively over our lifespan are causing premature aging and deterioration of cells and organs of the body.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way that, I'm afraid, that's lungs do that successfully because that's how we get oxygen into our system and get rid of CO2. So that's just the way it is. Why we take a Ventolin inhaler.
Right.
Because it's an incredibly efficient delivery system of that medicine into the lungs.
Right.
I haven't found a thought experiment that works for people that don't think about buildings like that, but I think we need to find ways of translating this stuff for people where they go, well, look, I can't think about this every day. So what are the habits I can introduce into my life, the behaviours, how and when I open windows, how and when I use ventilation systems, how and when do I spend my own money on what and prioritise on what, that I can over my life course get a better outcome. You know, the kind of Luften, the German airing the home approach, that it becomes a cultural thing. I think that's a really interesting idea, and a very hard one to crack.